Alright, hi, welcome everyone to the recap or re-recording of the 19th lesson of the Dutch language course. I'm so sorry I couldn't be here last week. I was very overworked, still am actually, but that's why it also took so long for this recording to come out. We're just gonna do it. Unfortunately, it probably is too short of a time for you to incorporate it in your presentation, but you are forgiven. Plus, these are kind of more bonus things. They're fun to know, but you don't. These are good to know for your Dutch development. That's what we're going into. So the topic is on date, but I won't be able to go into that much at the moment because the lesson was supposed to be a lot more interactive, But this is even more difficult to make interactive, me just talking to you. But we're going to try anyway. So what we're going to do, that thing is not very important, what we're going to do is first go through the homework. If you care about that, then we'll go do go through pronunciation again, and I'll teach you some secret tips to sound more Dutch, both in secret Dutch words and pronunciation tips, and then we'll have some more Dutch shorthands. We'll do diminutives very quickly, and that's basically it. Actually, it's not that much, but knowing me, I can ramble on about it for a while. So, and there's no one here to stop me. There's also 2 exercises. I will give you the URL for one of them, and then I will just publish these slides, and these slides also have the answers to the questions. So you could go through them if you want that extra practice. So without further ado, let's start with het woord van de week. Het woord van de week is afspreken, which means both to meet someone and to plan to meet someone. Afspreken, A is kind of weird here, can be like to plan to meet someone on a date, but it could also be platonic. It's kind of ambiguous. So it's a separable verb. We have af and spreken. Af means like off with double F, and spreken means to talk. Those together mean to talk off. No, it doesn't really make sense, but it means to plan a meeting or to have a meeting, usually in an informal setting. So, ik spreek af, jij spreekt af, hij zij het spreekt af, wij spreken af, jullie spreken af, zij spreken af. Verleden tijd is sprak af of spraken af, en het voltooid deelwoord is ik heb afgesproken, et cetera. Dus afgesproken. As you can see, the past participle, the past participle spreken is gesproken, and so we put the prefix in front of it to make the past participle of the compound verb. Afgesproken. Beautiful. Then, do you have any questions? Well, I'm happy to hear them, but I can't answer them. This is a recording. Or is it? Yes, it is. So, let's go through the exercises, the homework. Okay, so there's something weird happening with the font. Linux, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really matter. The exercise here is to make the questions continuous. So the first sentence is Erik en een zakenvriend ontmoeten. So you could make that in Erik is een zakenvriend aan het ontmoeten. Erik is meeting a business partner. You can't really use an informal one here. That doesn't really sound right. Second one. Sanne en oma Beumer opbellen. Sanne is oma Beumer aan het opbellen. Of Sanne liep oma Beumer op te bellen. Could make sense. It's a bit you can choose which one you like. If you have opbellen, you probably wouldn't use the informal continuous. If it was just bellen, then that makes a lot more sense. Why? I don't really know. I don't have all the answers, just like 95% of them. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also a note. In these questions, you can use both the like the present continuous or the past continuous. Just use a past tense. I think I usually use the past continuous here because I think when you're describing this action, it makes more sense to talk about as if they happened in the past. That just made sense for me when I was typing out these exercises. But if you have it in the present tense, that's also perfectly fine. There are no real indicators of time here, so we don't have anything to go on. Alright, 3. Peter en met een vriend uitgaan. So Peter was met een vriend aan het uitgaan. Again, here I also wouldn't use an informal continuous. Let's call them that, with liep and zitten. Because this is kind of an action, I guess I don't know why this makes sense for me, but I'll mention it when, and maybe you could extrapolate the rule and teach me. That's very easy teaching for me. Yes, so Peter was met een vriend aan het uitgaan, so Peter was going out with a friend. This could mean in a romantic sense. Uitgaan met also means kind of dating. But it also means just going out, like partying, you know. So it could mean both. Like a lot of romantic things in Dutch, it's all very ambiguous. Probably has something to do with Calvinistic, I don't know, roots of the Netherlands. For instance, there's no word for girlfriend or boyfriend in Dutch. It's just vriend of vriendin, which is really annoying. I probably complained about this before, because you can't really introduce a friend of yours or a girl or a female friend of yours. Also super gendered, very annoying, without it sounding like they're your partner. And then it's always like, oh, are they your partner? And then oh no, it's like it's my friend, but not like my relationship friend, you know. Fucking annoying. So that's one thing English does better than Dutch. The rest, Dutch is obviously the superior language. That's why you're learning it. Okay, 5. Karin lang uitslapen. So, oh, whoops, I already had that on the screen. Karin was lang uit uitslapen, or Karin lag lang uit te slapen. So here I think it makes sense to use the informal one, because sleeping is something you do lying down, unless you're a maniac and you do it standing up or something. Maybe you're weird. So Karin was lang uit uitslapen, Karin was sleeping in for a long time. Or Karin slept in for a long time. Okay, next. Oh, I don't have the 5th one. Or do I? Yeah, I do. It just did weird. So Erik en paraplu vergeten. This is a bit weird to put in present continuous, I think, but whatever. Erik is zijn paraplu aan het vergeten. Or Erik liep zijn paraplu te vergeten. So Eric was forgetting his, or is forgetting his umbrella. Usually when you're describing someone doing something, you're not describing the forgetting. So this sounds a bit weird to me, but it doesn't really matter. It's just about the form. 6. Sanne en de meubels afstoffen. So Sanne liep de meubels aan het af te stoffen. Or Sanne was de meubels aan het afstoffen. 7. Meaning Sanne was dusting the furniture. Meubels is furniture plural. Meubel is the singular. 7. Karin met een breiwerk beginnen. Again, this one is very weird to put in the continuous. I just stole this exercise from somewhere, so don't blame me. Karin zat met een breiwerk te beginnen. Or Karin was met een breiwerk aan het beginnen. So she was starting with a knitting project. That's, I think, the best translation. But again, here I would not use the present continuous. I would just say, oh yeah, Karen started a knitting project, right? Or Karen is starting a knitting project. That's very usual in English, but in Dutch you would say, Karin begint met een breiwerk. You wouldn't use present continuous here. So, bad exercise. 8. Peter de vriend voor het eten uitnodigen. Again, here I also find it weird. Peter was de vriend voor het eten aan het uitnodigen. So Peter was inviting or is inviting the friend over for dinner. Usually not something that takes a long time that you're doing continuously, just like starting. Starting is usually something that you just do briefly, and just like inviting someone is something you do briefly and not really continuously. So, kind of weird, but here is the continuous. You could also say Peter, oh no, that's how it is. Yeah, so the other ones, they are even more continuous, I would say. The present, the one with auxiliary verbs, like Peter liep de vriend aan het uitnodigen, of Peter zat de vriend aan het uitnodigen. Peter zat de vriend uit te nodigen. That implies that he was just doing it for quite a while. Just like, oh yeah, left and right, he was just inviting people. Oh, it's gonna be the greatest party ever. Peter is the reason why COVID is still not under control. Yeah, that's how you could use it. All right, then the second one. This has a different weird heading, but it doesn't matter. Just translate them to English. So, we're being fooled is translated as we worden voor de gek gehouden. If you didn't get this one, very understandable. It's kind of difficult because being fooled, kind of hard to translate, but it makes sense. Voor de gek gehouden. So we are being seen as fools. Is literally the kind of literal translation. Or being held as fools. That's the very literal translation. Held for fools. For the fool. Okay, now I got the right one. Took a while. We were being held for the fool. So we're being, people thought us the fool. Which is pretty similar to being fooled. But if you didn't get this construction, then yeah, that makes sense because it's very Dutch. Furthermore, the important part is that you use the we worden, because that's the passive form. We'll continue with it. We zullen ermee doorgaan, or we gaan ermee door. So, yeah, we will continue with it. Or, yeah, you could use the gaan here or not. The gaan is more proper if you use gaan. We zullen ermee doorgaan. Note that we are also putting door and gaan together, because that's one verb. Doorgaan is to continue. It's a compound verb. Alright. There wasn't much that could be done about it. I'm really reading this as a SpongeBob meme of a few years ago, you know? There wasn't much that could be done about it. Er kon niet veel aan gedaan worden. Here, the thing that you need to do is, you need to recognize I need to use er. Everyone's favorite word. There wasn't much that could be done about it. Er kon niet veel aan gedaan worden. And then finally, not finally, penultimately, the professor, sorry, I'm doing that very Dutch. The professor looked down on her colleagues. De professor keek neer op haar collega's. So this one you could translate very literally. Looked is keek, down is neer. Well, yeah, that's less obvious. Maybe if you put a like beneden or something, or naar beneden. But neer here, neerkijken is the verb that you use for this. Keek neer op, yeah, on is just op. Her is haar, and colleagues is collega's. Note the apostrophe. And lastly, she has dedicated her life to science. That's a difficult one. Dedicated is not really a word that you use a lot in Dutch, because it sounds very old-fashioned-y. Ze heeft haar leven aan de wetenschap gewijd. Wijden aan is the Dutch word for dedicating to. Okay, great job. Then, finally, the bonus homework. We're just going through that as well. More translation. So here, er is niets aan de hand. There is nothing on the hand. In Dutch, translated means, or in English you would translate it as, there's nothing going on, there's nothing to worry about. This is a useful idiom, It's not really an idiom. Turn of phrase to know, because Dutch people use this a lot, but it doesn't really make sense if you don't know what it means. So there's nothing on the hand means there's nothing wrong. There's nothing to worry about. Second one, hij geeft er niets om. He doesn't care about it at all. 3, de zon staat in het midden van het zonnestelsel en de aarde draait eromheen. So this is just long. The sun is in the middle of the solar system, or stands in the middle of the solar system, if you want to be very literal. And the earth revolves around it. And the earth, yeah, so clear. De scheidsrechter gaf hem 42 punten, maar hij heeft er 50 nodig. So the referee gave him 42 points, but he needed 50 of them, er. 5, de speler gooit de bal erin. The player throws the ball in it. So this is a bit of a weird thing to translate. I didn't really know per se how to do it. The player throws the ball in. I guess that's the best translation, but then you miss the in, the part. So you're throwing something in something else. And in English you would just leave it out, but in Dutch you leave it in. So maybe like the net in basketball, or the basket. You call it a basket, not a net. I know sports. 6, er kan niets tegen gedaan worden. Nothing can be done about it. There's nothing that can be done about it. In English you can have nothing as the subject of the sentence, and in Dutch you can't. So we use er. In English you could also use there. That sounds fine, I think. As a non-native speaker I have the ultimate right, of course, to say that. But alas. 7. De professor raakte gefrustreerd omdat er niemand luisterde. The professor became frustrated because no one was listening. Yeah, well, I don't think it's very complicated. We use er here, niemand luisterde, because niemand is unspecific, so it can't be the subject of the sentence, of the subclause to be specific. Finally, 8, er waren niet veel mogelijkheden. There weren't many options or possibilities. Possibilities is better, but it sounds very awkward in English. So English you would probably say options, and in Dutch you wouldn't say. I mean, it means something more specific than options. Okay. Then some partial recap and partial fun facts about Dutch pronunciation to make you how to sound like a Dutch person, because of course you would want that, right? This should not be there, doesn't really matter. Let's first start with just recap. This will be more freeform than really going by the slides. Recapping kind of the sounds, the phonological inventory of the Dutch language. Contrary to what you might see, like how many letters there are, there's quite a lot of vowels in Dutch. Approximately the same amount as in English. Last time I counted, I would say 16 if you count diphthongs, and I would count diphthongs because the Dutch ones are quite particular. So 16 different vowel sounds. That's different than vowel letters. So like the A, the E, the I, the O, the U, those are the vowel letters, and maybe the Y if you want to count it. But there's a lot of different vowel sounds. As you probably know, there's 2 ways to pronounce most vowel letters in Dutch. So you have the short, lax, closed version. I use those kind of interchangeably. I think lax is the best. Short is not really accurate because it's not shorter. And then you have the long, tense or open sounds. So the short ones, they're always with if you have one letter. But it's not like only the short sounds are only with one letter, but not every one letter is the short sound, obviously. Or the lax, I should be consistent with my own terminology. And so I'll just go through the vowels. So for the A, it's A. For the E, it's E. For the I, it's I. For the O, it's O. And for the U, it's E. So A, E, I, O, E. in English would be A-E-I-O-U, right? English doesn't really have this up. Well, it does sort of, but it's more complicated. And so this occurs when, like, it's very consistent. It's when it's not at the end of a syllable. But knowing what knowing what is the end of the syllable is kind of difficult, of course, if you don't speak the language. So shorthand, if the word ends, if it's the penultimate letter of a word, and then you have a consonant, and then the word ends, then it's the end of the syllable, not at the end of the syllable, obviously. Or if you have more than one consonant after it, then it's also at the end of the syllable. Ta-da! So rennen, for instance, to run, you have E and N. Well, dak means roof, D-A-K. So you have the A, then the consonant, then it ends, blah, blah, blah. You know, you have heard this before from me, probably, in the first lesson. The other ones, the long ones, so they occur when the syllable, the vowel is at the end of a syllable, or you have two of them, right? That's how we do it, except for IE. For the I, we don't write two I's, we write IE. I don't know why. We don't like writing two I's, I don't know. I never really figured out why that's the case. If you know, let me know. So, same order, it's pronounced. The A is pronounced as A, the E is pronounced as A, the I is pronounced as E, so very confusing. The O is pronounced as O, so it's almost the same, and the U is pronounced as U, U, U. I probably told this before. You make the U by saying E and rounding your lips, so E, U, E, U, E, U, E, U. Pretend to be an ambulance. Yeah, so there's one exception to this rule, and that's the letter E, because it can have both because it can be pronounced differently at the end of a word. So if there's an E at the end of a word, so that's at the end of a syllable, it's not pronounced as A, but it's pronounced as E. It's the unemphasized one. Unemphasized vowel is the schwa sound. In English you also have this, like in father, father. It's like in the middle of your mouth. Sounds like you get the sounds you make when you get punched in your stomach. That's always how I try to explain it. It's different from the lax U. So lax U is and the unemphasized E is So it's in the middle and the is in the front. Okay, cool. Then we have, of course, I think there's a slide for that, so I'll come back to that. Then we still have the you got this. Diphthongs, yes, the diphthongs. But we'll have a slide for that. So let's first talk a little bit more about the consonants. This is already getting very boring, I understand. So let's turn our eyes to the second part, the FVW. So in Dutch, a lot of Dutch speakers don't really differentiate between an F and a V, myself included. I usually say things as an F, and the W in Dutch sounds more like a V, but you can meaningfully distinguish between all three. So the F, well, you know how to make an F. The V, you know how to make a V, right? Very. What's another word? Vine. And the W is kind of like a V, but you don't really expulse as much air. Yeah, it's kind of like a softer V. You expulse air. I don't know really how to say that. And with the W, you don't really. That's mostly the difference. So I will try my best to do a V. If Eva were here, she could do a good were, like I did a Dutch W there, not good. She could do a proper job of this. So vanavond waren we naar de Wadden vertrokken met de fiets. So it's very difficult for me to do a V in Dutch. In English it's easier, although probably I slip up and do an F instead. But like with very, I know how to do it, but my V's and W's are very close, as are most Dutch people's. That's not a word. So, just do a V if you don't know how to do it. But just don't over-dramatize it. So don't, when you have wadden here, don't say wadden, wadden, because then that sounds wrong. Then you sound like Dracula. You know, what is going on here? And you don't want to sound like that, unless you are at a Halloween party. Then the H, the CH, and the G. So H is pronounced as well, technically it's voiced, but I can't really do it. I don't know how Dutch people do it. Like, you have unvoiced is like heske, heske, and voiced like heske, heske, heske. Ugh. I don't do that, but I think I'm in a minority in this. Dutch people like voice it. If you don't know how, yeah. So it's a difference between feeling your voice box vibrate and not. My break timer went off. That's not good. Yeah, okay, everything is still going. Okay, cool. So, heske, wow, it sounds so weird. Or heske. Just do the unvoiced one. I think the reason for this is you don't care. But because I grew up in Friesland, and in Friesland they speak Frisian, which is in a way similar to Dutch. It's also similar to English. And I don't think we voice H's. So maybe that's the reason. Or maybe they also do, and I'm just bad at speaking my native languages. Also fair. So the CH is pronounced as and the G as well. Technically there is a small pronunciation difference, but I don't really know how to explain it. So I just skip over it, kind of. Let's see. Lachen, yeah. So it's not as harsh, right? The CH is usually more in the middle of words, and the G is more and G is more at the start of consonants. So if we say lachen, you can hear that this doesn't sound as harsh as the G, right? I don't say lachen, lachen. That's the difference, I guess. Maybe a voice versus unvoiced difference. Versus graag, graag, which means, or here, gegaan, gegaan. And if it was ge and then ch aan, then it would be more like gegaan, gegaan. Yeah, I didn't really actively think about the difference, but of course it's my native language, so just if you want to, you can leave your friends behind, or you can do a soft G, you know, gegaan, gegaan. I can't really do that justice, but just try it if you want to. You'll sound like a Limburger or a Flemish person, which is fine. No, that's totally fine. Okay, then now we'll get into more of the. Let's do this first before we get into nitty-gritty of pronunciation. Like we're not doing it already. The tweeklanken, the diphthongs. So now I do want to go back to that slide that I thought out of place, but it's actually good because these are not diphthongs. These are ö and u. So diphthongs are when a vowel transitions smoothly into another vowel. And here doesn't. So with the first one it does, but it's sort of. And the second one it doesn't. So the second one, OE, is very easy. Very important to remember, this is always pronounced as U. Always. So no O or whatever you want to do, just U. This is like if you like seeing the English OU. It's exactly the same. No, same enough to not bother with it. If you want to really make a no, U, U, book. It's a bit different, I guess, but it doesn't really matter. Het boek, book, book, book. English is a bit more in the front of the mouth. Dutch is more in the back. That's a good rule of thumb in general, I guess. So het boek or zoeken. Oe. Easy. This one, EU, is not technically a diphthong, but most people pronounce it as one. So in Belgium and maybe the south of the Netherlands, they don't. But in where we live now, Utrecht, or wherever you are now, then probably they don't speak Dutch at all. You do speak as a diphthong, namely eu. So you go from to u, eu. If you want to cheat this, go from like in the middle of your mouth or whatever, where you find it comfortable, something that sounds like to u, eu. So you need to know the u, but that's difficult. In the southern part, where they speak Dutch, they don't do the u part, so they more say sounds weird to me, but whatever. So they would say de neus. So I sound super Belgian, I think, right now. Good job, me. And I would say de nose. De keuken, that's Belgian-ish. And de keuken. And you probably have heard what you do in the keuken. You pronounce it the same way. Alright, now let's get into some really nitty-gritty shit. How to make your Dutch sound more Dutch. Even though you already figured out all the consonants and all the sounds, you can still sound more Dutch. One big thing is that Dutch doesn't aspirate its plosives. If you don't know what that means, then you're not a nerd. Good job. What plosives are consonants that make you kind of expel air out of your mouth in an explosive way. That's not an accurate thing how to describe it, but it makes sense. So those sounds are like p, k, t. Those are the ones. Also sort of b and g and d, but those makes less difference because those are less plosive. So it's explosive, you know. So in English you would say the word for a table. So I say it kind of Dutchy because I have kind of a Dutch accent, you know. But in English you would say table, more like, I'm exaggerating, but if you pay attention to it, people who speak English natively do this. So they would say, can I park my car in the park? And if you take away that the plosive, then it sounds a lot more Dutch. So then you would say, can I park my car in the park? So you don't really do that at all. So you can test this by holding just your hand in front of your mouth and feeling if there's air coming out. So you can say park, like an English person, or you say park, like a Dutch person, park. And we don't really explode air out of our mouths at all. If we had low COVID rates, I would make a joke here about how this is the reason for why we're doing better, but we're doing very shit. So my theory does not hold, unfortunately. I think I made that joke at the start of this year, the first semester, but no, it doesn't work. Yeah, so that's a good one to keep in mind. That's also something that I keep in mind to sound more English, I guess, or more. I want to do an American accent, and they do that as well. So I want to say table and not table, you know. Then it's these two kind of go together. It's about emphasis, or klemtoon is not emphasis. It's stress. Yeah, that's the word. So the stress of where the stress of a word is. There's a better word for this. Doesn't matter. So if it's at the end of a word, usually the ij is not emphasized, and therefore sounds like So English does this all the fucking time. Every single consonant that's not emphasized, it becomes So orange. What's the long word? Television. You know. They fucking love the schwa. In Dutch we like the schwa, but a little less. We only reserve it for a few words, so for a few sounds, namely the e's and the ij here, and also ig. So if you have 20, you could say 20, but that sounds very forced, very old-fashioned. So you would more likely say 20, 20. And here you would say natuurlijk, not natuurlijk, because natuurlijk means nature and lijk means dead body. So it's pretty different meaning. So don't, if you say lijk, it's luk, not lijk. That's non-negotiable because otherwise you sound like you're a psychopath talking about dead bodies, which you may be into. No, hopefully not. Hopefully not. Also en, and we talked about probably el, er, rd, usually things that are e and then and consonant and then at the end of a word are also emphasized, and so they are not pronounced as but as so it's not lopen, it's lopen. Connected to that, I will skip one ahead here. You also don't, usually you don't pronounce the N there, or at least not strongly. You can, but you definitely don't put a lot of emphasis on it. So if I say rennen, that's fine. If you could also say renne. Renne is very common, how people say it. Yeah, I guess that's the main point. I think we talked about this before, but just make sure that you're not, or well, I don't want to be too prescriptive about this, because some people just talk like this, but I think, no, I don't think you shouldn't talk like this, but it comes across as, yeah, I know, I can't say that like without sounding like an asshole. So, if you say rennen, it sounds weird to me. I will just put it at that. So rennen versus rennen, but you can say, if you say rennen, that's perfectly fine. If you just don't really mention it and just kind of stop the word. But if you really emphasize the E, it sounds weird to me. But some people speak like that. Like I have a professor of mine who in English has a pretty strong Dutch accent, but in Dutch he has a very strong Rotterdam Dutch accent, which to me sounds not like how an academic would talk, but people just talk like that, you know? So skipping one before, but okay, now one more thing about it. So if you really emphasize the N, you sound you sound like you're trying way too hard. So try to avoid that. So you say rennen. Ik ga even een rondje rennen. Yeah, you know, you sound like the Queen or something. Then, this one. Oh, whoopsie. Medeklinkers aan het einde van het woord. So, consonants at the end of a word are usually, or almost always, unvoiced in Dutch. This is very important. And it's something that Dutch people do wrong in English all the time. So, the example I know best is that someone didn't know what the difference was in pronunciation between cart, like a thing you put stuff in, you know, and card, playing card. So, because in Dutch, the D at the end of a word is pronounced as a T, always. So here, two words, laat, which means late, and laat, pronounced the exact same, means to load, or yeah, just to, yeah, the first person form of loading, like loading a cart. Or dood, like death, or dead, in Dutch is D-O-O-D, but you pronounce it as dood with a T. So it sounds the same, and that's why you also don't see a V's or Z's at the end of Dutch words. You also really don't really see that at the end of English words, but I don't really know why that's not the case in English, because English does have voiced consonants at the end. But there are some voiced consonants. And the other one is the B at the end is rare, but happens. You pronounce it as a P. So the most prominent one is heb. Like I have, ik heb. You don't say ik heb, you say ik heb. and web, like web. In English you say web, kind of dramatized, and in Dutch you say web, web. The World Wide Web, or a spinnenweb. It sounds kind of weird, I think, but that's just what you do. But we don't have B's at the end nearly as much as we have D's, so that's what you need to look out for, the D, you know. And then finally, the R. If you can really roll your R kind of aggressively but briefly, then you'll sound very Dutch. So I try to do that when I speak Dutch here, because I want to set a good example. But when I speak with Dutch with my friends, I don't roll my R nearly as much. Although I've been doing it more, mainly because when I go to the doctor, for instance, so my last name is Jorna, Jorna. And I notice if I pronounce it the way I usually pronounce, people don't understand it or something. Dutch people don't. They're like, oh, what? Can you repeat that? I always get that. So now I really dramatize it, and it's leaked into other parts of my speech. So usually I would just say Jorna. And then people are like, what? So now I always say Jorna. Jorna. And now I roll my R a lot more, which I think sounds fun. So rennen instead of rennen. Rennen. I don't know. You can roll it as much as you want. Keep it under 3 rolls, you know, not so maybe rennen. No, that's already too much. Rennen, yeah, that's as much as you want to do. Don't be too extravagant, you know. We're in the Netherlands. We don't want you to be noticed. I don't know. There's a saying about that. That doesn't matter. So finally, here are two websites that I really like, which are both the right one is an analysis of the Dutch accent. Goes into quite some detail about how the consonants are different in English. This is an analysis of the Dutch accent in English, but it works very well about how you want to speak Dutch more like a Dutch person, right? Just apply that, but to your own Dutch speaking. And this one is kind of a guide how to do a Dutch accent on stage by someone who got annoyed by the portrayals of Dutch accents he heard in his own theater group. Pretty interesting, pretty fun. I always wanted to do how to do a very good Dutch accent in English video at some point, which I thought might be useful for learning Dutch, but I haven't gotten around to it. Maybe I'll try to do it for tomorrow, but nah, I probably won't. All right, and then finally, just a repeat of the diphthongs. I keep forgetting the word. So this one's the most difficult. Au. You start at and then go to u. But that's kind of difficult. So if you want to cheat, you can start at a and then go to u. Au. Au. If you do it quickly, no one notices. So the town instead of the town. So that's the proper one, and this is the cheat one. So proper, town, cheat, town. Barely notice the difference if you do it quickly. Proper, ruiken, cheat, ruiken. If you do it quickly, you get it. If you know some French or something, it's like the in oeuvre. Again, pardon my French, but it's that and you also have that in French. You probably can do it better than me. And then go to u, and you also have an u in French. So if you're French, you should be able to do this. Ei, you start at and go to e. Ei, ei. You start kind of at like the English like in can't, and then go to e. Kind, trein. Okay, I don't know. They're pronounced exactly the same, ey and ij. One thing you might notice is that sometimes you see all of them together. So you see eij, like at probably the most famous example is in Albert Heijn. And that's a very old spelling, and that's not used anymore, but just like old names or street signs, etc. You'll see that. It's also pronounced as ei, and not Albert Heijn or something, which I have heard a lot. So the trein rijden. And then finally, AU and OU are always pronounced as au. in English you also have ow. It's not written like this, but like how or ow. Pronounced the same. Het touw. Kauwen. You got this. Alright. Then, that's enough pronunciation. I'm taking way longer doing this. I knew that I would take a long time for pronunciation, and I still did it. I'll put timestamps somewhere so you can skip this. But hey, welcome people who skip this. Spreektaal. These are just kind of words that Dutch people like to use a lot. They're also in your booklet, and they're hard to translate, but I'll do my best. So Dutch people, like other language speakers, don't just speak like a book, but they put in words that are not strictly necessary. Oh, how dare they, you know? One fun word the Dutch like to use is the word he. And it can be used in two kinds of ways. One means, isn't it? And the other means, huh? What? It's kind of like an exclamation of surprise or distrust. Nah, maybe not distrust is too strong, but disapproval in a way, or like, huh? What? Yeah, perfect, that is it. So, if it's at the end of sentence, it means isn't it, or doesn't it, or whatever. Aren't I, whatever. Dit gaat best goed, hè? This is going quite well, isn't it? Mooie jas, hè? Nice jacket, isn't it? And if you say at the start of the sentence, that means, hè? Welke jas bedoel je? Huh? What jacket do you mean? That jacket you're wearing is ugly as shit. Oh, that's the last sentence. Jo, it's not something that people use that much these days. It's kind of more something your mom, that was cool to say, I guess, when my mom grew up. And now people still use it, but it's not like, it's not slang anymore, but it's just like a weird thing Dutch people say. So the jas is echt mooi, joh. And so joh means kind of like dude or of course. Well, of course it really means in this construction. So nee joh means no man, of course not, something like that. And joh at the end is more like a positive exclamation. Yeah, yeah. It's short for jongen, which means boy, guy. So joh, if more slang-ish would be saying jongen here. But that doesn't really matter. So the jas echt mooi, yeah, okay. I don't really like this word, so I don't want you to learn it. Now, Dutch people, okay, I'm gonna say this a lot, just excuse me please. Dutch people love to say the word now. Nou, dat was weer gezellig. Wat vind je van de jas? Nou, ik vind hem niet heel mooi. Wat zei je nou? Nou gaan we lekker eten. So now comes from nu, which means now. So it sounds like now, and it also kind of means now. And it kind of means well. And it says in your booklet conveys surprise. I wouldn't say that's super accurate. It's not per se surprise. It's more like just a filler word you put into a situation you're unsure of, I guess. Or something that you want to hedge. It's kind of a hedging word. Or a filler word. So, nou, dat was weer gezellig. It's like, wow, that was fun, right? So it's just a filler word. Doesn't really mean anything. En wat vind je van die jas? Nou, ik vind hem heel mooi. So this is kind of a hedging word. So, what do you like of this jacket? Well, I don't really like it, you know? It's kind of like leading up to something you don't really want to say or something you're not comfortable with. The third way is, wat zei je nou? Here it just kind of means now, but kind of meaning now, like the past tense of now, like now, just a little bit ago. So what did you say just now? Just now, that's a good translation. And now gaan we lekker eten, here it just means now, literally. So now we're gonna eat nicely. Yeah. Just put it in places in a sentence and it probably works. Just put it at the start. Yeah. I guess the third one is really, if you want to use now in a sentence with the past tense. So, wat zei je nu doesn't really make sense, right? Because you say, oh, what did you say now? This doesn't work because now is present. So you say just now, right? Well, wat zei je now? But it's not really about the time frame per se. It's more adding a filler word that means, okay. These things are hard to explain. Hoor. Dutch people like to say hoor. I'm doing my parody for me. So hoor sounds rude, isn't. It means, or here in book that's very accurate, conveys confidence or reassurance. So it's like, don't worry, or something like that. It just adds kind of a positive layer to the sentence. So, graag gedaan hoor. No problem. Really, something like that. That doesn't mean. It doesn't really mean really here, because graag gedaan hoor. It could also be very sarcastically. So a lot of Dutch words, of course, can be sarcastically. You say graag gedaan hoor, means like, oh yeah, well, like if someone didn't thank you for something you did for them, and then you could say, oh yeah, graag gedaan hoor. Was no problem. And here, the second one is more accurate for the reassurance. Ik kan wel betalen hoor. Don't worry, I can pay. But it's not really, don't worry, it's too strong. So it's like if someone wants to pay for you, so you go on a date or something and they offer to pay for you, you could say, ik kan wel betalen hoor. Or I guess this sentence is more in the context of like, you're in a big family dinner or something, and oldest family member offers to pay or something, and then you say, oh, no, I can pay. Ik kan wel even betalen hoor. Don't worry, so don't worry here is too strong. Don't worry, I can pay. Because it's not like they were worrying about it, but it's more like that you're reassuring them that you're able to pay or that you want to pay, you know? Other combinations are with ja and with nee, very common. So ja hoor means, yeah, of course. And nee hoor means, no, don't worry about it. Yeah, sounds fun. Ja hoor, nee hoor. Wilt u het bonnetje? Nee hoor, bedankt. It's a bit more polite. Again, these things are hard to explain. Other example, die jas is echt lelijk. That jacket is really ugly. Ik vind hem best mooi hoor. I think it's actually pretty nice. Yeah, so it's kind of a weaker form of don't worry or actually, combined into one useful word. Just put it at the end of sentences and wait until Dutch people ask you to stop, and then you know when not to use it. It's a really good way to satirize Dutch people. If you just want to say add hoor at the end of the sentence, you sound like a Dutch person. Then, these are words I actually looked up because I was more unsure about them. The word toch. Toch means kind of right. You're asking for reassurance instead of offering it. So this is kind of the opposite of hoor in a way. So, ik heb mijn fiets op slot if you said, ik heb mijn fiets op slot gedaan, toch? So, I locked my bike, right? Is kind of the opposite of when you would put hoor. If you say, ik heb mijn fiets op slot gedaan, hoor. Yeah, don't worry, I locked my bike. So yeah, complimentary. Or die jas was echt lelijk, toch? That jacket was really ugly, right? Die jas was echt lelijk, hoor. Die jas was echt lelijk, hoor. Yeah, don't worry about it. That jacket really was ugly. You didn't miss out on not buying it. That's at the end of the sentence. At the start, it means like, after all, or actually pulling this face. That's what toch is. Toch vond ik die andere jas mooier. So, actually I did like that other jacket more. In English, again, you use emphasis a lot more. Dan, it means then at the end of the sentence. Like, ga je die kopen dan? Are you gonna buy that then? Yeah. That's just what it means. Alright. Cool. So those are the words. good luck. Here are some other words that get kind of shortened by Dutch people often, so it's useful to know, to be able to pick up on them, because they do it a lot. So natuurlijk, we talked about that, meaning naturally, or like, of course, gets shortened to tuurlijk often, because it's obviously way too long to pronounce a 3-syllable word. Hij, I mean, super short word, still gets shortened to I. So hij means he, and I is kind of short for die, which means that, or yeah, that person. And so it gets shortened to the I. Usually after a T word. So what's a good gaat-ie, and it's also used for het, actually. Let's see, what's a good example? Daar gaat. I don't have a good example. Usually after, okay. Is he going to the party? That's a good example. In Dutch in proper Dutch would be, gaat hij naar het feestje? So just present tense, but because we have this gaat ends on a T and then hij, if you don't want to emphasize the hij, you can say gaat hij naar het feestje? And it's pretty implied that you know which he we're talking about. You're not pointing to someone and say, oh, gaat hij naar het feestje? You would say, then we would use hij, just like jij en je, you know? And het often gets shortened to t. So, yeah, if you want to say, it's going all right, het gaat wel, then you usually would say, het gaat wel. You just say t instead of het. This is useful to go here immediately. So here's an even bigger list of things you can shorten. So ik often gets shortened to k. So if you want to say, ik ken hem niet, for instance, because ik also starts with a K, you can say ken hem niet. So it's kind of implied an ik there. Or ik ga naar school, I'm going to school. You could say ik ga naar school. I'm going to school. You don't really have an equivalent for English. Similar with the other ones, you have mij, you could say me. But that's more like an unemphasized one, so really shorter. And mijn en mun is the same, also unemphasized, not per se shorter. Jij en je, jou en je, or jou en je, again unemphasized. Hij en I, as we talked about, that should be on the list. Zij en ze, en hij en het en het. Hem is often actually shortened to ik heb hem niet gezien. Ik heb hem niet gezien. So I haven't seen him. You could shorten to, the proper one would be ik heb hem niet gezien. Shortened would be ik heb hem niet gezien. Very common. Haar actually also gets shortened to der. So ik heb haar niet gezien. Gets shortened to ik heb der niet gezien. Again, unemphasized as well. And het, again, het. And then zijn gets shortened to zijn. Dit is zijn zoon. Oh ja, dit is zijn zoon. This is his son. And haar naar der again. So, my favorite example, zij wast haar haar. She's washing her hair, which I should do. Or zij wast der haar. Or ze wast der haar. She's washing her hair. Or she's washing her hair. So you're emphasizing the hair, not the rest. Not she or her. Same with wij and we. Ons doesn't really have a shortened version. And ons or onze also doesn't. Jullie doesn't have an emphasized one, which is kind of weird, to be honest. Jullie, the plural does, sort of. So zij becomes ze. So non-subject is actually hen. So I haven't seen them in a while. Ik heb hen een tijdje niet gezien. That's the proper form. But a lot of people now, they use hun. That's actually incorrect. They also use hun as the subject often. So ik heb hun niet gezien. That doesn't sound as weird. But if you were to say they haven't seen me in a while, then some people would say hun hebben mij een tijdje niet gezien. But that's just wrong, but very common. And if you want to be very Brabants, you could say hully. Hully hebben mij een tijdje niet gezien. Which is a kind of a combination of hun and jullie. But just means third person plural. And then finally the possessive is hun. You can't shorten that. I don't know why. Well, I know why, because hun already would be the exact same if we make it an apostrophe. Well, it sounds approximately the same. You would be saying hun, hun, hun. Not real any pronunciation gains over there. Okay. Then I'll finally do this, and then we'll do I'll speak a bit in like some tongue twisters, and then we're done. Don't worry. So diminutives. We didn't really talk about them. Maybe you probably heard these ones before. They make words smaller. In English, you can sort of do this with adding an y at the end. So a little mousey. But it sounds like you're talking like a baby. And in Dutch, you can do this without sounding like a baby. Just a really big child, I guess. No, but this is... take a shot. Dutch people really like to use diminutives. So, Dutch people just put diminutives at the end of everything. I probably said this a million times already. But like, stoeltje, muisje, bureautje, ik ga even vakantietje houden. Op een eilandje misschien, leuk hotelletje pakken. Maybe I should just talk like this from now, It's very fun, I guess. It just makes things sound more casual if you make them small, but sometimes it has actual meaning. So if when referring to family members, you can say broertje or zusje, which means your younger brother or younger sister. You say neefje or nichtje. You're referring to your younger cousin or younger nephew or younger niece. Again, Dutch doesn't have a word for separation between cousin and nephew, and we don't have a gender neutral term for like cousin. So it's just like kind of the equivalent of nephew and niece, but then whatever. And it just means that they're younger than you. It does not have anything to do with generations. So I have my father's sister has children. They're all older than me, so those are my neven and nichten. But my mother's sister also has some kids, and they're all younger than me, so those are my neefjes and nichtjes. But they are the same generation, so it doesn't matter. If you want to really explicitly refer to someone who is a generation like higher than you, like the children of your, I don't even know how this works. The children of your brothers or sisters, right? No, you would still use just neefje and nichtje. It's not different. If you want, but you can go, if you want to go one higher than the children of your brother, of your father's brothers or whatever, then you can say out. Neef? No, I don't know. I don't know how to refer to those people because I never meet them. My family is fine, but I guess they just don't talk to each other that much. So cousin twice removed or something is not a thing in Dutch. What was I talking about? Yeah, diminutives, small words. So there's one constant in them, and that's that they always end on je, but sometimes need to put something in front of it. Now this is actually really complicated. I tried to do this in the beginner's course last year, and I just took it out because I just showed them a real big diagram and spent 20 minutes talking about which is what. It's really boring. So I'll try to spare it for you. So we just put them into 5 categories. And yeah, this is approximately right, I guess. So don't worry about it. Just try this. If you don't know, just add y at the end, or ch. Just add ch, and then yeah, whatever. You'll figure it out. So you add only y if the word ends on a letter which sounds like a consonant in section of ketchup. Weird. So if it ends on a D or a B, you still use it because a D and a B at the end of a word sound like T and P. So here's the example is taart, taartje, koek, koekje. But also drop is not really a good example, but whatever, that's also unvoiced. So drop, dropje. Brood, it's not brood, it's brood. So that sounds like a T. So you just make broodje. Because otherwise you would add T after it and it doesn't make sense. Then you would have broodje with DTJ. That's too much. Too much, man. Then, if the word ends on a vowel, and then M, N, N, G, or L, so nasal sounds, so the sound comes out of your nose, because your mouth is closed. L is not really a nasal sound, that's just whatever. Comes out of the sound, it's a lateral sound. Then you add utje. Or if the word ends on ing, without the stress being in a penultimate syllable. Very interesting. What I mean, so oefening. So the stress is not on the penultimate syllable or the last syllable. So if it's just the stress is not on the ing or the syllable in front of it, but somewhere else, then you use utje. You will not think like this, but that doesn't matter. I'll just tell you anyway. So ends on an M, gum, gummetje, bal, balletje. And again, the M has a fucking exception later down the line. We'll see. Oefening, so the emphasis on the oefening is not oefening, because then so it becomes oefeningetje. If the emphasis ends on ing and it has stress on the penultimate syllable, so it would be oefening, then you would change the G into a K and then add je. So you would get oefeninkje, because then the emphasis transferred to the ing or something, I don't know. So here, ring, that's another example of no stress on the penultimate syllable because there is no penultimate syllable. So you get ring, ringetje, not rinkje. So if it is on the penultimate syllable, you get kje. Ketting, ketting, kettingje. Not kettingetje. That's too many unemphasized syllables at the end. Kettingetje. No, that doesn't sound right. Because kind of the emphasis wants to transfer to the ink, kettingetje, and then everything kind of becomes emphasized and it sounds weird. Dutch stress rules, I could have also included that, but I'm ranting enough already, are weird. Woning, house, living space, woningje, because there's only one penultimate, there's only two syllables. Usually this happens in two syllable words, just remember that. Then you get nkje. So the pje is if the word ends on M and it's a tense vowel before it. So, or it has a consonant before the M. So boom, boompje, boom, boompje. I need to think of another example with raam, window, raampje, like a tiny small window, from which to look out into the world. And on LM or RM, so film, you know, filmpje. RM, arm, armpje, like a T-Rex. Yes, and then finally for everything else you use ch. It's actually more complicated than this. This is already way too complicated, but just try to add ch to things, and sometimes remember, oh yeah, sometimes it doesn't work. I think instinctively you will, the utje, you will do that instinctively because it just sounds weird. You probably won't say ringtje because that's just too many consonants behind each other. So you probably would say ringetje instinctively. And then you know, oh no, that's actually how you're supposed to say it. Ringetje. Oefeningetje doesn't sound right. Oefeningetje. And a lot of Dutch people also just do the NK thing everywhere, so they say rinkje or oefeningje. It sounds cuter. But it is wrong, so you're not allowed to do it. Okay, we made it. This video is going way longer than I thought. I'll bang this out in 30 minutes. Okay, then finally, me speaking. What you've all been waiting for. So I'll just say some Dutch tongue twisters. Try to repeat them. Maybe pause the video before I say them, and then I'll say it, and then you listen. Bruine brodenbakker Ben Broekman baalt van het bruine broden bakken. I'll do them all at the end again. So brown bread baker Ben Broekman is disappointed or doesn't like baking brown breads anymore. Het lijkt natuurlijk een leuk idee. It of course seems like a fun idea. Gooi geen groene groenten in de grote gracht. So you can hear if you have an R after a G, because my R is so is in the back of my throat, and the G is also there, they kind of morph into one thing. Gooi geen groene groenten in de grote gracht. Gooi, they kind of sound identical. Maybe let me try pronouncing it without the R. Gooi geen groene groenten, Gooi geen groene groenten in de grote gracht. To me, it sounds different, but if you don't notice the difference, that's totally fine. So, don't throw green vegetables in the big canal. Although gracht is not a canal. It's a small canal. Foute vrienden willen wel eens veel verpesten. Wrong friends occasionally want to ruin a lot. So there's a difference between F, V's and W's. I'll try to do it properly with the V's. Foute vrienden willen wel eens veel verpesten. Yeah, I couldn't do it. 5. Jeukt jouw jeukende neus ook zoals mijn jeukende neus jeukt? Does your itchy nose itch like my itchy nose itches? Important questions. 6. De vriendelijke visser viste 5 verroeste fietsen uit het vieze water van de vervuilde rivier, vervuilde vijver. So, yeah. What you can notice if for me the V is in the middle of a word, I do pronounce it more like a V. Like schrijven, to write, I do pronounce it more as a V, not really. I don't say schrijven, but schrijven. Yeah, more like, doesn't matter. Okay, so the friendly fisherman, or fisher person, fishes 5 rusted bicycles from the dirty water of the contaminated pond. I think rivier, vijver is better, yeah, because that's super V. Mijn wollen trui met lange mouwen houdt mij warm in koude maanden. Nice meter in that sentence. So my wool sweater with long sleeves keeps me warm in the cold months. Don't wear wool though, bad for sheep. 8. In de gezellige winkel verkopen ze hele goede gele hoeden voor een prima prijsje. That O shouldn't be there. One other thing I will mention is something that had been brought to my attention a couple years ago, is that Dutch people indeed don't really distinguish between S and sh as much as English people do, or Germans for that matter, or other languages, you know? Those are the only two that matter, you know? So that's why in English you can hear me slip into sh a lot more, because in Dutch there's not really, there's, maybe I should start speaking like this. Wow, that does sound really different. Wow, okay, maybe I should do that. Maybe not. Leave me your feedback in the comments. So yeah, in Dutch we don't really make that much of a distinction there. Now I'm really conscious of it. And especially when you have an S and then a J, things get really weird. So here you have prijsje, prijsje, kind of becomes like an ich sound in German, prijsje. So you wouldn't say prijsje, prijsje. You could, but then you sound kind of like a creepy salesman who will sell you something, but it will come with a price. Yeah, so that's my excuse for being bad at English. 9. Oh wait, the translation. In the gezellige shop, they sell very good yellow hats for a fine price. 9. In Scheveningen schieten ze elke zomer 500 vuurpijlen de blauwe hemel in. In Scheveningen, every summer in Scheveningen, they shoot 500... Fuck, what's the word? Like fireworks that do... they shoot 500 firework arrows into the blue sky. Really worried about the S now. So 10. Even op het Rijkswijksplein 55 ijzeren scheidhuispijpleidingen halen. That's just a great sentence. I'm just gonna say it again because it's so fun. Even op het Rijkswijksplein 55 ijzeren scheidhuispijpleidingen halen. Lovely. So even means like even, short for just in a bit or like briefly, or just like doing something in a short time. I'm just gonna go to het Rijkswijksplein, somewhere in Amsterdam. We're gonna get 55 ijzeren, 55 iron, scheidhuispijpleidingen halen. So we're gonna get 55 iron shithouse pipes at the Rijkswijksplein. Yeah, just a scheidhuis, as I guess. Yeah, it's just like an outhouse, outdoor toilet, but then kind of rudely said. Alright, I'm just gonna go through the 10 of them because I think they're fun sentences. Try to keep up. Bruine brodenbakker Ben Broekman baalt van het bruine broden bakken. Het lijkt natuurlijk een leuk idee. Gooi geen groene groenten in de grote gracht. Foute vrienden willen wel eens veel verpesten. Jeukt jouw jeukende neus ook zoals mijn jeukende neus jeukt? De vriendelijke visser viste 5 verroeste fietsen uit het vieze water van de vervuilde vijver. Mijn wollen trui met lange mouwen houdt mij warm in koude maanden. In de gezellige winkel verkopen ze hele goede gele hoeden voor een prima prijsje. In Scheveningen schieten ze elke zomer 500 vuurpijlen de blauwe hemel in. En finally, even op het Rijkswijksplein 55 ijzeren scheidhuispijpleidingen halen. We did it. Okay, so I will post a link to the listening exercise in the Teams, hopefully, if I don't shoot me or tase me or something. And the answers will be on here, so it's pretty fun fragment, I think. It's fun-ish. They do make someone kind of uncomfortable, but yeah. Go have a look, or not. Now that I think about it, it's kind of weird. Yeah, so watch at your own risk. And then I will put the link there and you can look at the things in the slides. You know where to find the slides. If not, again, just shoot me a message, or just shoot me. I think that's it. I will put this in the Teams because no one will watch this at the end, but see you tomorrow. You were not watching this yesterday. See you today, see you later. Hopefully you all prepared the presentation. you will get your thingy if you do it, your certificate, and you'll make me very happy if you come. I'm interested to see what you guys come up with. So, see you tomorrow, and have a nice day. Oh, this is awkward. Oh no, where's the stop recording? Yeah, okay, bye.